Hey friend, Sean with GuidedProductions.com, and today we're answering the question, does your camera really matter? Now don't worry, I won't make you wait till the end of the video to find out the answer. The short answer is, it doesn't. But please don't hit me with tomatoes for saying that. Before we go any further, I want you to understand, I'm speaking as much to myself as I am to you over there. I've spent more than a decade in the tech industry, and I love all gizmos and all gadgets. Anything with buttons or flashing lights, and I'm your guy. But what I don't want to hear is people telling me, Sean, I can't go make something amazing until I get this new camera, or this new gimbal, or this new thing that does this or that. The truth is, what you have in your hands today is probably the most affordable option, and chances are can do a lot more than what you think. So we're gonna bust this myth today that you have to go buy the latest and greatest gear to create something amazing, and I'm gonna show you 3 reasons why I believe the best camera is the one in your hands today. We're gonna start with the very first and the very most important, in my opinion, is your skill set. So let's dive right in. Now, I love the game of golf. I'm terrible at it, but I love the sport. But me telling you to go buy that latest cinema quality camera and expect to be Ron Howard overnight would be like me saying I'm gonna walk into the pro shop, buy a brand new set of Titleist golf clubs and expect to be Tiger Woods. I actually don't know if he uses Titleist clubs anymore, but that's neither here nor there. Chances are, not only am I not going to be Tiger Woods, but I may even step myself back a few weeks, if not a few months, because now I need to relearn my swing and how it's affected by the balance and the shape and the weight of these new clubs. And the same is true for your camera gear. And so I'm gonna say this, it might come off a little harsh, but if you have to justify buying something new, you don't need it, okay? But I will give you 3 things to look out for that may indicate it's time to explore new gear or maybe even an upgrade. Okay, the first and foremost is that you effortlessly navigate through the menus of your camera, right? You're in a full manual mode, you got the M at the top. I'm not talking aperture priority or even the automatic settings. You're in full manual. You're constantly switching between log and standard formats based on your production. You'll switch frame rates on the fly, that sort of thing. You know your camera inside and out. That's usually a good indicator that your skill set is starting to bump up against the barrier of the limits of your camera. Now, another thing to look out for is as you progress in your production, you'll start to find new functions that you require for what your clients need. This would be a good indication that, maybe I'm limited by my camera and I need to expand outside of that. That may be an area. You can also explore lenses and potentially keep that same camera body, but that's one thing to look out for. And then the final indicator I would say is as you start uploading content and you have folks coming back to give you feedback saying, wow, I can't believe you filmed that on that camera, or I can't believe you were able to make that look so good with what you're using. That's usually an indicator that your skill set has surpassed that of your camera as well. So unless you fall in these 3 categories, I would say stick with what you've got, invest in your skill set always before you invest in gear, and that next choice will become the obvious choice. Now moving on, I want to talk about affordability, right? I would always say that beginner gear in the hands of a pro is by far better than pro gear in the hands of a beginner. Now imagine you woke up tomorrow and I handed you the keys to Warner Brothers Studio. Wouldn't that be great? And I said, you have 3 days to make something epic. My guess is by the end of that 3 days, if you have anything to show, it'll probably be no more than the quality of what you're doing at home. Now, why do I say this? Because that production quality gear, the lighting, the sound, the boards, the camera gear, all of that requires special knowledge and understanding and experience. Okay, so translating from your camera gear at home to a studio quality, cinema grade, theatrical level production studio is largely not going to make that much of a difference for you. All that to say is you don't want to invest thousands of dollars on gear that you now have to learn and try to learn into, grow into, versus just making great quality content with what you have. Not to mention, if you're shooting and making money, you need to find a way to recoup that investment so that it's not a loss, and this can become stressful as well, maybe even inhibit the creative process. So when the time comes that you've hit that level and you're starting to outgrow your gear, it'll become obvious to you. And that next step will not only be the obvious choice, it'll be the smart one too. Now, the last thing I want to hit on here is comfortability, right? I like to say go with what you know. There are a lot of polarizing rivalries out there. You think of snowboarders versus skiers, or kayakers versus canoers, or my favorite, sports car drivers versus minivan drivers. That's a thing, right? It should be a thing. Go minivan drivers. Anyway, the same is true for camera gear. So maybe you started on a Canon, but you've got a lot of folks telling you you have to be in a Sony, or you have to get a Nikon, or you have to shoot on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K. All phenomenal brands, phenomenal companies making amazing camera gear. But what I wouldn't want is for you to inhibit or delay making great content because you need to understand and learn an entirely new setup, a new menu navigation because you've just switched cameras. That can be helpful in certain production techniques. Maybe you're in a studio environment and you have access to all this gear. But if you're just working with one brand, one camera, or even two cameras simultaneously as like a second shot, I would highly suggest going with what you know, what you're familiar with. And if it makes sense to tier up in that camera brand, do that instead versus jumping to a different brand. You're still gonna get really, really good content. And remember, it comes down to the person, not the gear. All right, so let's wrap this up. We talked about how we don't need to justify buying something new to make something amazing today. We talked about investing in our skill set, right? Leveling up so that when it does come time to make that purchase or buy something new, it makes perfect sense and it's the smart choice. We talked about affordability and not just throwing money away, but taking time to do our research and understanding that our skill needs to grow into that next camera, and maybe we can do more with what we have today than we thought we could. And then of course, comfortability, go with what you know. It's okay to tier up in the same camera brand. We don't need to buy into this myth that you have to buy that other thing, this other emerging technology. What you have is gonna grow with you. And that isn't to say that you can't switch. I'm just making a recommendation for how you can make great content today as quickly as possible. So thanks for hanging out with me today. If any of this was helpful and you want to learn more about production or editing, head over to guidedproductions.com and I'll actually put a link below to my 6-step process for building better videos. It's a PDF guide where I walk you through every process from storytelling to export. I'll give you production techniques, editing techniques. I even lay out how I organize my files and my computer just to make the process super simple. And the last page is designed to be printed off. It's a checklist so you can follow along with your next project and make sure you never miss a step. So thanks again for hanging out with me today. I hope this was helpful and I look forward to seeing you again on another video real soon.